Hey Process Pros, today we're going to walk through best practices using conditional coloring. Conditional coloring is one of the most powerful features within Puzzle because it gives you X-ray vision into all of the data that is inputted on your workflows. And what data am I talking about? Well, if you just take one step, for instance, all of these inputs that you're inputting within the sidebar, the step status, whether it's draft, in progress, testing live, the step type, if it's an email, a meeting, a delegation, what tool is used, the roles involved, and who executes it, as well as attributes that are used. Yes, it takes a while to input that information, but the differentiation is that now that that information's inside your documentation, you can parse that information really, really easily using conditional coloring. There are actually several ways that you can parse the data here using list view and a couple of other features, but today we're just going to walk through conditional coloring. So what does conditional coloring mean? Well, it means that you can create a rule that references the inputs across your workflow. So you can do things like reference step status is not archived and when step status is not live, and color all those steps where these two criteria are met orange. And this is what gives you X-ray vision. And the reason why it's impactful is because when you're presenting your diagrams and you're trying to talk through multiple elements of what your diagram is trying to communicate, whether it's what roles are responsible for which steps are automated, which steps are still manual, et cetera, you have a way where you can enable and disable very quickly different rules to bring attention to that part of the map. So what are some of the best practices here? Well, I always create and have a rule on my workspace that's called building. And I just turned it on and I just kind of use this criteria as an example. But the criteria here is when step status is not archived and step status is not live, which means it's everything but those two things, meaning it's either draft, in progress, testing, or it's not set. And the reason why that's impactful is because I actually keep this conditional coloring rule on all the time by default. Because when I come into my visual knowledge base, for those who are using Puzzle as more of a visual knowledge base for your organization, it's really nice to see where in your processes it's kind of under construction. You're working on things, you're trying to scope things out, so that if you ever have a spare moment, you can come in here and very quickly see, oh, I'm supposed to add this flow where when someone lands on the pricing page, there's a series of actions that happen across Intercom, Zapier, and Clay. So that's the big use case and probably my favorite conditional coloring rule right there. It's the one that I most frequently use, that's for certain. The other best practice is to have one built out for manual steps. So this rule looks at when executor is equal to person. Right? By executor, I mean this input right here, whether it's a person, an automation, or an AI agent running the step. The reason why I like to have this rule accessible to me is because if there's ever a point where I'm trying to understand what are the things that I need to do after someone's enrolled in a demo sequence, for instance, well, that's all the manual steps. And I can just flick this on, and all of a sudden I see the 4 things that happen after a new lead, needs to be revived, etc. I'm kind of just using these as examples, but there might be other use cases that come to mind for you. So that's manual steps. You can also use manual steps to just quickly highlight the potential opportunities for automation. So if you're giving a presentation on your diagrams that you've built for a client or internally for your organization, and the point that you're trying to make is that there are opportunities for automation, this rule will come in handy. Alternatively, and it's pretty much the flip of this, is executor is automated. So if you want to show off all the places where you've built automations, maybe you're comparing current state to future state, and you want to show people the points in the process where you've automated things versus manual steps in the other process, well, you could actually turn both of these on so that you can show, oh, look at the manual steps versus all of the automated steps in this flow here. So that's another rule that I highly recommend. Another rule that's very powerful is customer actions, because when you're speaking to a diagram, oftentimes what you're trying to figure out is where are all the customer touch points. And so very quickly you can toggle this off and on and say, oh, this is the customer touch points that are going on in this flow. You can actually use these in tandem too. So let's say that I wanted to see customer actions, but I actually wanted to see only the manual steps that aren't customer actions. So because customer actions are technically a manual step, they have this role assigned to it. Maybe I just want to show quickly, oh, these are customer steps. Although they're manual, these pink ones are really the internal operations that a sales rep would, for instance, need to take care of. So you can use any of these rules in tandem together. Another powerful one, especially if you're doing AI transformation, is AI steps. So very similar to, what was it? The manual steps and the automated. This rule here is executor is AI agent. And when you flick that on, you'll see all the points in the process where AI is involved. Another great thing for when you're pitching clients on a future state and you can make a point about where you're implementing AI. Some other things here, for instance, you can do a rule where a specific tool is used. So let's say I'm having a conversation about replacing HubSpot with Adio, and this in this future state map, I want to show all the points in the process that involve Adio, the new CRM. Well, I can very easily speak to the ones that are highlighted in red right here. And so I'll make one more example and then wrap this up. The other thing that you can do is you can use attributes. So if you've added attributes to your specific tool, for instance, in Adio, I've added my entities and attributes here, which is essentially adding your data model for this specific system. And once you add those two specific steps here, for instance, in this step right here, you can see I have first name and email address. Maybe I want to see very quickly, where are all the places where first name is used across my journey? For instance, emails and sequences might reference first name in the header or the greeting. Well, because I've documented my system and I've attached attributes to all of the steps that use first name, you can see it's just 2 steps here. But it allows you to see how first name is used across those 2 steps. And my next question would be, well, I wonder where first name gets populated here. Well, it's likely in this form step, which you can see we collect first name in type form, and that passes it along to Adio. So really powerful feature, gives you X-ray vision into your documentation. And what that means is that you can tell multiple stories with the same diagram. And usually in traditional tools like Lucidchart, Miro, and Whimsical, you can't tell multiple stories. Or if you do, you really have to choose one or use swim lanes, or there's pretty much 2 ways to pivot information when you're building in one of those tools. Inside of Puzzle, you can insert all of this documentation and tell so many different angles of the story of your operations. So I hope this inspires you. These are the best practices that I use, and if you have more, post them below. Cheers.